Welcome everyone to Fueled by Coffee Podcast. My name is Matt. I am your host, and we are back once again for another episode. Today, we are here with my good friend Matty. Sunday Black is back, and we are here once again with Pete from my cousin's girlfriend's house. We are going to be reviewing the new BLINK-182 album one more time. We're going to jump into that in a little bit. I know people are probably a little confused because I said the next episode was going to be Neighbors from Hell, but it didn't really, the recording didn't go as I'd kind of hoped, so we're shelving it for Be Real. Matty can attest to that. He was on that episode. It just, the flow was kind of off, right?
Yeah, it just, sometimes you miss it. And
yeah.
We just weren't on our game that day, so it's okay.
But, so yeah, we're here reviewing the new Blink album. As many know, we are huge, all three of us are huge Blink-182 fans. Pete and I did a whole 4-part series back in 2022.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Best four episodes of my life, man.
Yeah, and Matty and I, that was like a centerpiece of our music that we did together, so this is
there were literal conversations while writing certain parts and how we were going to sing them and when we were going to sing them. And it was like, so I get to be Tom this time and you can be Mark.
yeah.
It was like these literal like
yeah.
I would say a lot of our stuff came down to us talking about that kind of dynamic. And
I feel like it was either
those three.
It was always Blink and MXPX. Those were like the two. I feel like.
Yeah. 100%.
But yeah, so we're stoked to be here today. If you're new to the podcast, this is a podcast centered on coffee and conversation with my friends. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, buy some merch, follow us on Spotify and YouTube. We'd love to have you on board with us. Today, coffee-wise, I brewed coffee for Pete and I. Pete is drinking a black chock full of nuts, just the normal medium roast.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, and dude, it's so good.
It is. I am always chock full of nuts, like at home. It's like the cheapest one that tastes good.
Yeah. And I made myself chock full of nuts as well, but I kind of spiced mine up a little bit. I put some oat milk in it, and I also put some peppermint extract and chocolate syrup in it. So it's kind of like a little girly like peppermint mocha thing going on. It's pretty good. I'm very proud of myself.
It's an at-home Dutch. Is what it is. It's
for real, dude.
No, I don't. Do you guys have Dutch out there?
No, we have Wawa.
No, that's the Jesus of the East Coast. That's all you need.
Yeah,
it's all you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Matty, are you drinking coffee right now?
I am. I'm drinking the Costco special. I still don't know what it is. It's a light roast with French vanilla cream in it.
Hell yeah. I always loved the Costco brews at your house. I could drink them black, and they were just, we were just talking about this off air. Black coffee is good when it's done right. On the drive back from Colorado, we drove through a McDonald's, and I had a black coffee, and it was like the worst coffee I've ever had. It just tasted like burnt cardboard. It was so nasty.
Yeah.
But when it's well done, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we drank a lot of coffee.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, we drank a lot of coffee during that time.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, so let's just jump right in, guys. We're huge Blink-182 fans, as we've all said. Pete and I did an album ranking early 2022. We're actually talking about early 2024 doing another album ranking, revisiting and redoing it, because it's funny. When I was preparing for this review, so I have to preface this for this album, since it has come out on October 20th, this is the only thing I've listened to. Really, honestly, I've listened to a couple other things here and there, but I've spent so much time with this album just for this episode.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted to have a good grasp on everything, really, digest it. And, but yeah, since it was funny when I was preparing for this episode, I re-ranked their albums, and my list is very different. So I think we're gonna have to.
I actually went through and I listened to this album nonstop for a couple days, and then just revisited the whole discography in order to try and refresh myself and make sure all the takes on this album weren't just based off oh my god, it's new.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't think a ton is. Go ahead.
It's a little controversial. I've noticed, because a lot of people are weighing in on it. And I read a friend of mine today, he's just a musician like us, he's small time. And he was like, I don't like this. It's not,
Wow.
it's not my, and I was like, okay, he's
fair.
like, it's not good in my opinion. And I was like, okay. But I've heard that, like, some people love it, some people hate it. And then there's people just kind of caught in the middle too. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like California had more praise than this one.
Which is weird
Really?
because that's at the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
I feel like I loved California when it came out, and then Kayla and I listened to it recently, and I didn't care for it. There were a lot of songs that like when that album first came out, I used to listen to it like almost every night or like after work. And I really liked it. And the last time I listened to it, I skipped so many songs. Like, there's only maybe a handful I would listen to
There's
on there.
a couple heaters
anymore.
on there. Simple's a heater, but like
I don't think it's aged well.
Yeah, I mean, you know how my thoughts on that whole. Anywho, don't want to get too distracted.
I feel like you just can't. That, like, those two albums, 9 and California, you just can't compare them with the Tom stuff.
I agree.
Like, there's just totally, like, it's like,
dude, I always say that, it's 99. It's better than what like 99% of pop punk bands could do. It's better than anything I could ever do. Like, it is unequivocally good, but it's not Blink, in my opinion. And I know this is not the California rehash episode, but
yeah,
here I am coming back with that. Sorry, Matt.
No, you're good. When we ranked the albums last year, it was still Matt, Mark, and Travis. There was still talk of them doing another album. Like, there was all this talk of like, oh, we're 85% done, and Matt Skiba's on one end saying, I have 9 songs worth of material, or I have almost an album's worth of material. And 2022 was the 20th anniversary of Boxcar Racer, and like on that podcast we had talked about like, oh, apparently there's this Boxcar song floating around on someone's computer, and like maybe they'll drop it this year.
It fucking is.
And it ended up not coming out. But then, so that was when I was in Pennsylvania. I moved to Colorado. Let's talk about, so Tom's back in the band.
Yeah, he's
been for a year.
Yeah.
And let's just kind of talk about that for a second. Like, obviously, I want to say, like, how do we feel about it? But it really doesn't matter how we feel about it because it's happened. But, like, where were we at? I vividly remember where I was at when Tom rejoined the band.
Oh, same.
I was at work.
Same.
I was working at Safeway in Monument, Colorado, and I remember I went on my lunch break. It was fall. It was that perfect Colorado fall weather where it's just like it's nice and crisp. The sun's coming up. I go on my break at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting there at this picnic bench outside the store looking at Mount Herman, and I opened my Instagram, and it was like the They're Coming video. And then I watched that and I was like, here we go. And then when it showed up and the snippet for Edging came on, I was kind of like, huh. And I was kind of like not pissed about it because my whole thing is like, growing up, I wanted to be Tom DeLonge, right? Like growing up, I loved Tom. I thought he was the coolest, funniest guy ever. I was obsessed. I had the Angels and Airwaves sock head beanie thing, that made your head look like a saggy nutsack. But, like I loved Tom. But then, obviously, I'm a huge Alkaline Trio fan. So when Skiba stepped in, I was okay with it because I'm like, oh, he's a great musician. And seeing how Tom left the band. And obviously, we've all watched the Zane Lowe interview now. We understand more like, oh, Tom really couldn't be there because he was dealing with the government. But, it was one of those things I was kind of like, I remember sitting there and thinking like, this is fucked up. I was like, this guy left you guys high and dry twice now, and you're just going to be like, yep, come back in, Tom. Come on, dude. It's okay. I understand why not. I felt more bad for Matt Skiba, even though he's been such a cool dude about the whole thing. Like, he's like, him and Tom like each other, and like, that's awesome. But I feel bad that it was kind of like he stepped in and helped keep this band going, say what you might about that iteration, but that they were just kind of like, all right, Matt, see you later, So I don't know. I was, that's where I was at in time. I'm to the point now where I'm like, it's cool. I have a whole little thing about Tom, but like, where were you guys at when that happened last year?
So I was at work too, and you texted me asking about that video. If I had seen the new promo video or whatever. And I was also in Monument, Colorado. I remember the job site that we were at. And so I just stepped away and I was like, hey, I'm going to be gone for like 5 minutes. And I stepped away and watched it in my car as soon as you sent it to me. And that was one of the funniest promo videos. Like, from the very first like chick that starts talking, I knew exactly what it was. You know, like as soon as she said that, I was like, I know where this is going. And then it just kept compounding and compounding and compounding. And so I just thought it was a tour video. Like, we're going to be on tour, world tour, you know, something like that. And then we hear Tom's voice first, and then it pans and you see him standing with the other two guys. I was excited, to be honest with you, like, because usually when we like a band, when we like, you know, albums or whatever, it's usually a collective effort between those musicians.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there aren't many bands that I like all of their discography if the members change every single, like, because usually it's just, they're just doing the same thing over and over. But bands like Green Day and Newfound Glory, those guys, I'm trying to think of some others. They always kind of put out the same type of music that is honed to them because they have the same guys writing. You know, sometimes, A Day to Remember is the same. You know, they've always had pretty much the same guys.
Yeah.
Except for they've had a few changes over the years, but like, so when I heard Tom was coming back, I was like, dude, this is dope.
Yeah.
Like, so I was excited about it. I wasn't excited for live Tom because Tom is pretty shite on the live recordings a lot of times. I feel like he's gotten better though.
Well,
the snippets that I've heard.
When I was really blown away, and we'll let Pete jump in after this, but when they played Coachella and that live stream got announced, I was going to bed because I had to get up for work so early, but Kayla and I were laying there and I was like, oh, let's just put this on and see. And they were playing like all of their old songs. I think when I opened it up, they were playing Anthem Part 2, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. Or no, maybe it was Dysentery Gary. They're playing something that they don't normally play. And then I was like, Tom is like, he's in key. I was like, this is insane. And I was like, his guitars, because the thing, and Pete and I talked about this a lot of times, is like, his live tone for a while was just like, so like, it wasn't as big and gnarly as it used to be. And it was just, but like, it sounded so close to the albums because he's using simulators now for his amps, but like,
and his back to Fender. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is, I was like, that was the first little glimmer of like, I was like, okay. I was like, all right. I didn't like Edging when it came out, and we'll get to that when we get to the album discussion. But I think Tom's doing great. How about you, Pete? What do you?
Yeah, I was on vacation with Taylor's family at Atlantic City, or somewhere just outside of Atlantic City, and I had seen some, like, I don't remember who I saw. Somebody had said like the day before, like, oh, Tom's back and they're doing a stadium tour. And I was like, I will believe it when I see it. And then I saw it that morning, and I kid you not, I was dancing around the freaking kitchen. Yeah. And, I'm biased. I like Tom, and I have always felt that Blink is not Blink without the three members, including Tom. And like, I appreciate Matt for what he did. And like, it did keep it going, but it felt correct, and for me it was just like a nice kind of light day where it's like all is well for today.
I think I remember, I don't know, I wasn't super stoked about Edging from the preview, because even the preview I was kind of like, I don't know, I don't know, that song, I just remember when it came out I was kind of like, this is it. It was one of those, I was like, this is what you're coming back with, like, but yeah, I mean, Tom's back in the band. They sound great. I'm going to try and go see them on this next tour. The tickets don't seem to be as expensive as last time.
Depends where you're looking.
See, it sucks because
you're still going to have to sell a nut to
I think you'll be good honestly though. I do think you'll be good in Philly, especially on the resale market. I have noticed leading into the week or so up to the show, you find some tickets will drop, and if you're cool upstairs, you'll get it for under $100. And we actually went in Colorado, ironically, and like the stage they set up was very open, so we got these seats that said it was limited viewing, but the only thing we couldn't see was like the back screen, but you could see all of them, and it was an awesome view of Travis, and it was like just over $100. So it's definitely feasible. Don't feel too discouraged by the bullshit of Ticketmaster and like kind of what happens on the day of release, because that's really demoralizing when you're like not even a minute after tickets are on sale, and the pit ticket that was $150 is now $400, and oh, by the way, it gets in your cart and then you lose it because Ticketmaster sucks. Yeah, like it's miserable.
Well, so Matty and I were going to try and go to that show at Ball Arena, and so the last time I saw Blink was in 2016. It was literally a week before California came out. I ran into Pete on the way in, and it was funny, like we knew each other.
Really?
It was funny, we knew each other like kind of, because I had seen his band Above the Mendoza play like a handful of times, but it was one of those, I was like 5 people back, and I was like, is that Pete guy? And then I was like debating starting to sing one of their songs, and then, but we ran into him, and we went in together, and so it was $75, and that was just for general admission at the Sands in Bethlehem. I walked in, I was right on the floor. I was not up against the guardrail, because I don't like being I don't like being crushed the whole show. I've done that before, but I was on Mark's side of the stage, and I might have been like 3 or 4 rows of people back. I was close enough that like it was one of those things, like, so I started listening to them in 2010. And so like I was, obviously late to the game, but like my sister had the old albums on the computer and stuff, but so it was one of those like full circle moments where like they walked out on the stage, and I was like, oh my God, they're real. Because all I've seen of these guys is on the computer or on my phone, or I've been listening to them, and then they all walk out.
Especially at the Sands, like that's a great place to see them, because there's not a bad spot in the entire place. Like it's like a 2,000 cap room or something. That's just like absurd.
But so it was $75, and I was expecting, like between 75 and 100 this time, and then like the tickets get released and it's like over 400 just to be on the floor at Ball Arena, and I was like, holy shit. And Matty was like, yeah dude, like 75 was kind of my max too. And we talked about doing the like where we go and like wait for the limited view, but I would have had to call out of work. It was the day before the 4th of July. My managers were like such stickler Nazis about missing work, like. But this time I'm gonna try and make it happen. The floor seats, or the floor tickets for Wells Fargo Center in Philly, are like they're over $300. But there was some of those like behind the stage ones for like $75 or $90. So I was like, I might go that route.
If you have the patience to wait out, like I know some people just don't, but like it will go down.
Yeah,
and we can go. Like that's what I'm gonna do. I don't know if you're willing to wait it out as long as I am, but like.
Dude, if it would mean me go, as long as like I can put in for work.
Like for My Chemical Romance, we bought tickets an hour before doors, lower levels, great view, under $100, and it was just like it just takes waiting that long.
You know what I might just do is it like a guarantee that like if you wait you will get something?
Yeah, I mean you got to pull trig at some point. If anybody was wondering how to buy tickets on the secondhand market.
It's funny, Matty. I looked at the Philly prices, and then I was like, I wonder how they are in Denver. And I was like, maybe I'll fly out and Matty and I can go.
Dude, Denver's so fucking expensive.
I'd be okay with that. And I'm looking at stuff right now online, and they're expensive.
Yeah. I'm going to I think I need to go this, and Kayla wants to go too. So if Taylor wants to go, maybe all 4 of us. But then, and Pete and I might be going to see Alkaline Trio in March. Yeah. We're getting both of them. Come on, Matty. Come on.
Maybe I will. I actually, I just became a Trio fan. Like Matt was the one that got me into Trio. Like I had heard some of their songs and was like, yeah, they're good. And then I forget what album.
Is this thing Cursed?
Yes, that was the first one. Mm-hmm. And I listened to it and I liked it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And then we talked a month later or whatever, and you asked me, hey, how do you like that album? And I'm like, it was good, like. And you were like, that's not even a good one. How about you listen to Crimson? And when Mercy Me came on, I was like, all right, I'm sold. Like, like that was the song that like really wrote me in. and I listen to them all the time now.
Yeah.
I love their writing style. It was so good.
I'm always preaching Matt Skiba's dark vampire gospel.
Yeah, dude,
always.
Let him stay there.
Always. But yeah, so Matt Skiba, we love you. We thank, not that you're listening, but we thank you for everything you did in Blink. And now let's roll into One More Time. I had here a track by track, but I'm just thinking let's just do an open discussion of the album, because let's not be statistical about it. Let's get feely with it. So this album's been out for what, like 2 weeks now?
Yeah,
like
9 days. It came out on the 20th, right?
So let's just start with our overall. How are we feeling about it? Do we like it? Do we not like it? Are we enjoying it?
Should I go first?
Yeah, you go first, Pete.
As the resident Tom lover.
Pete has been very tight-lipped about this whole thing. I mean, even Matty and I off air last week, we briefly discussed, but the literal words out of my mouth were, I'm not going to blow my load on this before we record the episode.
Same.
I've intentionally not been talking about it just so I could come in with the shock factor, but I'm pretty sure, like, you probably have a feeling how I'm feeling about it. Like, I'm fucking ecstatic, man. I love it. I'm giddy. I can't stop listening to BLINK-182's new album. And to be fair, I have to go back and say, no matter how much I didn't like California or 9, I fucking listened to those every day for however many weeks leading up to the point that I got tired of them. But like, this just feels right. And I will say it took me a little bit of time for some of the songs to like listening to it all the way through is a whole different experience than listening to the singles, because a couple of the single I was like, all right, yeah, that's cool, but listening to it straight through a couple times through, I'm just like, man, there's not too many that are like, maybe I'd skip this, and like all together it really hits all the places that I want to be hit.
I think you just touched on something that I was kind of thinking about, is that I think that this album, the singles weren't kicking in your balls, like you know what I mean, like except for One More Time was good. I watched that and I cried.
Oh my god,
like I had tears in my eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, please, like Travis is singing, like what the heck is going on? like I freaking loved that that video, but like, well, and what was the one that came out the same day?
More Than You Know.
That was a good one. But like, I would say the skyrocketing singles that they've put out before, All the Small Things, First Date, Rock Show, like, I don't know if any of the singles they put out from this album were like those.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, so I was kind of like, okay, well, let's, I feel like I've listened to most of the album at this point. Like listening to the 6 singles they threw out. Like
I cut myself off after a while because I didn't want to blow the whole album.
Yeah.
It's that stupid modern take. I mean, it is just what it is, but
the Oliver Tree way where you release half the album.
Luckily, Blink gave us 17 songs and then 2 bonus songs, so like it still was fresh even listening. But it was kind of like you said with the singles. There was not an All the Small Things or like a heavy hitter so much.
Yeah, but I think once you kind of make the Blink sandwich of the album and digest it as a whole, I think it's one of their better albums as a start to finish, like production, songwriting, instrumentation. Like I thought it was really good. Like I couldn't stop listening to it the Friday and Saturday. Like I just kept turning it on wherever I was and listen, because it was just like,
it's that cycle. Just repeat. It's like, oh, we just finished Childhood, right back to Anthem Part 3. Like, I also think we'll get more into it, but I think like really strong back half of an album. Like I really enjoyed a couple, like basically all the songs on the. I enjoyed all the songs. You're getting it, but like the back half, they got like a little more serious and a little more like, this is where I like to see Blink going.
And that's where I'm going to jump in, because one of my notes was that the front half of the album, I feel like, thank you. One of the front half of the album, I feel like, is more like for the casual fans, casual listeners, because that's where you have like Dance With Me and One More Time and Fell in Love, like those more like catchy, like haha songs, right? But then you get to that back half, and I think it's more for like the hardcore fan, and you get that whole mesh of all of their sounds. Like you can hear Plus 44, you can hear Boxcar Racer, you can hear Skiba era Blink, you can hear old school, like Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. Like you hear every era. They did a really good job with this album. Like, I don't want to say catering to the whole fan base. They did a great job of taking their whole sound, their whole discography, and like bringing it all together. So what I do love, so Pete had a leak like a day or two before the album came out.
Just a day, but man, did it give me a lot of time to listen to the album, because I just like for the day before it came out, I was just nothing but that, and I was like, I'm a bad fan, but
I was like thinking about Tom, right? So let's go back around to Tom.
Aren't we all?
Let's go back around to Tom. Like, we all know what Tom was like at the initial reunion, right? He was still like, his mind was very much focused on Angels and Airwaves. He was really trying to push that sound into Blink. And even just like, I was explaining to Kayla about how like he would go out on stage with like the Angels and Airwaves logo like spray painted on his guitar to play a Blink show, and I was like, that's kind of bullshit, you know? But the thing I really love, and you can really see, like, again, going back to the Zane Lowe interview, they talk about the healing of the band and the whole, like, they're all on the same page now. They've really mended the fences that weren't mended 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And you can really tell that Tom is like, I put in my notes, he's born again Tom DeLonge. Like, even so much as, like, you know, you had the banter after the first reunion on stage, but you watch them now, like Coachella or any of the shows from this last tour, like Tom and Mark are like, they're like best buds again. And like, you know, you look at Coachella, Tom's whole running joke with the Dalai Lama kissing booth, like that is so good. Or just like some of the, you know, you can tell that Tom is like into it. Like, he's not just like, okay, I'm playing with my band Blink. He's like, I am part of this now. And you can tell that, like, there's just, so like, I almost, and like Tom with all of his dick jokes, and it's not all about everything else. It's about Blink. So like, I love that.
I teach masturbation. Like, I think, well, you just kind of said it. I think that if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure all of the songs they both are singing on, and even Travis, I think mostly, yeah. And I think that from my interpretation of the album is that they went into it the way me and you went into Sunday Black. It was like, we're gonna all write all of this together. And if you pull up their track list on Wikipedia and you look at who's writing each song, Hoppus and DeLonge and Barker are on all of them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and especially Hoppus and DeLonge, and I think that's awesome that they're both, you know, using, and that's why I like self-titled so much. A lot of people say, oh, that's not really the Blink sound, it's not Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, but like, or the one right before it. But what I liked about that album, and I think One More Time does the same thing, is they used their writing styles and their voices together collectively to write a lot of the songs and to get across a lot of things. And I kind of like that. Instead of going, oh, this is a Tom song and this is a Mark song, I kind of like that it was like, oh, this is just a Blink song.
Yeah.
I also,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, one of my notes about the album was just like, there was a bunch of banging bridges. It was just like, they did a really good job. And it kind of was the same formula where it's the same type of bridge, but it was different. Like, Mark had some really killer bridges, and it was like almost every note is like, fuck, this bridge rips. This bridge, like, Dance With Me, I really like that bridge. The fucking Turpentine bridge gets me going. The other side, like the bridge, it's just really strong. You know, they share vocals throughout, but I just noticed like there was always a really good bridge that brought me back to, a lot of them are like self-titled feeling bridges, which like, I got shivers thinking about it.
And to wrap up my thoughts on Tom, Sean actually pointed this out. So I went to get the album with him, and we listened to about half of it on the ride home. He said something about like, man, I'm loving old man Tom's voice. And I was like, and even Kayla, like Kayla, my wife, who's not super, like, she loves music, but she's not like us, we're musicians, right? She said the other day, she's like, wow, like Tom's like his voice has gotten a lot better, and I think it's because he's not trying to do the whole this thing. Like, you can tell, like, he's putting that, like, grit back behind it. Like, there are some songs on this album where he genuinely sounds like old Tom again. Like, he's really, I don't want to say he wasn't trying before, but you know what I mean. Like, he's not trying to be more than what Tom DeLonge is.
Yeah, I got you.
You know, but yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So let's jump in with our favorite tracks, our least favorite tracks, and then our sleeper tracks. We always did this on our Brews and Tunes reviews, where we had the sleeper, where it's like,
Matt said something to me about what you said, Pete, but Anthem Part 3 just kicked me in the ball sack. Like, the first time I listened to it, I was like, well, and here, okay, let me paint this picture real quick. So, album comes out first thing in the morning. It's 6:45. I gotta take the girls to school, right? And so I get the girls in the car. We're driving. The sun is still coming up, and Anthem Part 3 starts playing, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And Allie, she's a badass chick. My 4-year-old, she goes, turn it up. I'm like,
you knew it was good right at that moment.
And I turn it up.
Single tear.
We're just like listening to that, watching the sunrise, driving down Powers.
Damn.
Yeah. So like that, I have a few other favorites, but like Anthem Part 3, I really, really, really liked. That's a banger in my opinion. That's a really good one.
I have a 3-way tie for my favorite. And they're all different styles. But yeah, so it's funny when you said Pete, like Matty said, Pete was like, wait till Anthem Part 3 kicks you in the nuts. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if it was because of like, I feel like my vibe was off when I first listened to it, but Anthem Part 3, like, I wasn't super stoked about on the first listen. I was kind of like, man, this is the weakest of the anthems. But now that I've spent more time with it, I definitely like, and I've really like not analyzed it, but looked at the lyrics more. And I do think it's a really, really good song. Like, I do like it. It's not that I didn't like it. I was just kind of like, I feel like it's because you have that expectation of like, it's another anthem. Like, how are they going to follow? How are they? Yeah. So it might have just been that like I set my expectations too high. But that is a banging song. The first song that I was like, my ears perked up, and I was like, oh, was Turn This Off.
That's so funny.
That's a little 20-second one. Mm-hmm. And it's because lately I've really been into Bad Religion. Like, Pete and I, we went to dinner the one night, and I was jamming Bad Religion, No Control in the car.
Oh, heck yeah.
So I've been listening a lot to Bad Religion. I've been listening to The Descendants a lot, like that, like old, like 80s, 90s skate punk. So like when that came on, I was like, oh, this is so sick. Like, even though it was like a joke song, if you look at but it's just such a vibe, dude. Like, I get excited. That was the first one. I was like, yeah, this is sick.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I know it's a joke song, and like put the lyrics aside, just like the vibe of it really did feel a little bit like Happy Holidays. Mm-hmm. I don't know, just that into when we were young felt a lot like Happy Holidays into Story of a Lonely Guy. Yeah, just with like the clean guitar of the next. But yeah, sorry to cut in there. That was just...
they did it twice on this album. They did it with Fuckface too.
Yeah.
Like,
did you know, Matty, that Fuckface was actually Travis and Tom singing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did know that till I saw the interview. I thought it was all Tom.
Did you see? Travis posted a video of him doing the vocals on his Instagram. Yeah, if you go on. But yeah, so Turn This Off. The other one was You Don't Know What You've Got. That one, so like I said, I listened to...
That's a good one.
I listened to Edging, Dance With Me, and More Than You Know, and then One More Time, I guess. And after that, I was like, I am not listening to the rest of the album. But that one popped up on my SoundCloud, so I was like, all right, I guess I'll check it out.
So much self-control, dude.
Dude, I hate myself for being like that. But it popped up on my SoundCloud, I clicked on it, and when the bridge hit, I was like, damn. I was like, wow. Like, I think we've all kind of felt that way about just like, you have those moments in your life, and this could just be how I perceived it, but you have those moments in your life where you almost feel like you're trying to make a deal with God, and it's like you're just like on your knees, like none of us have had cancer like Mark, but the vibe where you're just like, please, like, do this for me. So I don't know, that one is my other favorite. I just think it's such a well-written song. It's hard hitting, it's heavy hitting in the heart region, and then my like big favorite that I cannot freaking stop listening to is Turpentine.
Yeah, that's a fucking banger.
Yeah.
Banger.
Yeah.
That is like, that's what I think is the best depiction of like new Blink, that encapsulates all of their kind of qualities. But like, it's such a big sounding song, and the synths are used in a very tasteful way that like really just make it fucking huge. And then the bridge is it's good. That's good stuff.
And it was, I remember like Mark Hoppus had posted something, or someone posted, Mark, I guess, had said something about like Turpentine's going to blow everyone's minds. And my first listen, I guess technically my second listen, but my first full listen of the whole album, I was sitting here with I played it through my studio monitors. I was here with my wife. And when that song came on, I was kind of, it was like an Anthem Part 3 where I was kind of like, I was like perplexed, like, I was like, I got to hear that again, you know? So then through multiple listens, and the one day at work, it just got stuck in my head, and I was like, oh my God. But for me, so those who have listened to the podcast, those who have listened to the music I've made, you know that I love pop punk, and you know I love experimentation. And Matty has said, like, where I come in with like different songwriting elements, where that bridge shifts. Like, it goes from just being this like big, massive like rock song, pop punk song, whatever you want to call it, to like all of a sudden it goes into this like vibey lo-fi bridge. I was like, that's a total like that I like blew my load right there, because I was like, that is all me.
That gave me really hard self-titled vibes too, like, and just like the flow of it. It's very like cool Travis Barker beat with Tom doing those octaves with the extra note under. Like, it just felt right. Well,
and the and even like the lyrics too. So like, I love that song too. Like, lyrically, that bridge with Mark is phenomenal. Like, Mark is such a good lyricist all around, but his bridges are like I think his
bread and butter.
Yeah, thank you. But then like, if you look at the lyrics of this song, like obviously like the ones where Tom's like, you know, like rhyming with turpentine or turpentine because he's an idiot and doesn't know. Like, I love how they kept in that out. I feel like that outtake at the end was like he realized the right way to say it, and he was just like, oh shit. But the song is about like feeling broken and like wanting to like, because turpentine is like a solvent, like a cleaning liquid. It's toxic to humans, and he's talking about like you know, like almost like being rebirthed or like making himself new again. And I, as someone who has lately for the last like year and a half, I've been struggling with that. Like, I just want to feel like me again. That song, like, that hits me real hard. It's such a good song. So yeah.
I also love when they come out of the bridge, and it's like Tom's just like blah 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 blah. Like, I don't know why. I just love that. That was just like,
that's been all of us in the studio.
That was really tastefully, really funny. It's just like, fuck. It almost came over as like, fuck all this bullshit. Like blah 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 blah. What if I'm not like the others? Boom.
All right.
Very powerful.
So Matty, did you say your favorite was Anthem Part 3?
Yeah, I would say my top 3 are, I'm actually looking at the list just to make sure I get this right, but Anthem Part 3, and then I really liked When We Were Young.
Yeah,
I thought When We Were Young was pretty good. And then Childhood, I'm gonna say Childhood is, I don't know why, like I saw the name and I was like, what is this about? And once like it came on, I was like, dude, this is a really well written song.
It's so relatable, because how many times have like, I feel like that's a common conversation I have with people, is like talking about, like, I feel like I just had this conversation with my mom last night, was like, I've talked with you, I've talked with Kayla, Pete, everyone. I feel like my generation, and not even like my generation, but like the kids that are a year older and a year younger than me, we were that last core group of like, technology was here, but it wasn't the way of the world. We still went outside, we rode our bikes, we ran around the neighborhood, we ding-dong ditched people, we played with our toys, we had an imagination. And like that whole song is about life being simple again, right? And just like, where did that innocence go? So yeah, that's such a good song, dude. And then and I think that's, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, those synths at the end, when those came in, because again, with my lo-fi stuff, I was like, oh, that is so cool. You know, like, I love it. So,
well, and I think that's why this whole album resonates a little bit better than I think some of their other stuff. Because like Neighborhoods was good, you know, like I like Neighborhoods, but like you know, some of the stuff they were singing about, or Tom was singing, I was like, what are you talking about? Wishing well? Like, what were you on? Like, when you wrote that, dude? Like,
He's talking to aliens, man.
Yeah.
What do you want him to do?
Yeah.
Something. Frodo Baggins and Gandalf. I don't know what's going on, but like, there's like one of the things, and I've caught myself screaming this off of Anthem Part 3 is like my old shit ends here tonight. You know, like there's a lot of stuff like that where, you know, like who the fuck are we? And, you know, just like these lyrics where you're just like, you're singing them because the band's singing them, but you're like, it's resonating with you yourself, you know? And I think for me, that's why I like the whole album a little bit more. This time around is because I feel like I can relate to it. You know, a lot of times I listen to stuff that's newer and I'm like, oh, they're just singing about being single. I don't understand that anymore. You know, like I'm an old man. I'm in my 40s. I got kids. I don't sleep no more, you know, like And I just like there was a lot of stuff, you know, where I don't know, like Fell in Love. I know you said you didn't really dig that one, but like at least last week. Yeah. But I even like Fell in Love because I just was like thinking about, you know, past relationships that I had that were kind of like that, like meeting at parties and ex-boyfriends are around and, you know, just being stupid and being crazy, but then, you know, also falling in love in whatever capacity that is, you know, like, I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff on this record that I don't know. It hit deeper this time around than some of the other ones. You good, dude?
I was gonna
we've lost Matt.
I was gonna have a smart ass remark. Like, yeah, no, dude, totally. To wrap and I feel like this is kind of gonna play into when we do the re-ranking of the albums. Yeah, I almost feel like this is what, you know, no, I need to say this right now. This is what Blink should have been upon their first reunion. It is, like we said, it's them. Yeah, and definitely. I feel like this is like Take Off Your Pants and Jacket or the Untitled album if they were 20 years older. Like, and that's what I want to hear from them. Yeah. Because like you said, we're older now. Like when I first started listening to them, I was 14 years old. So it was like, fuck you, mom and dad. Yeah, you know, like that whole thing. And, you know, kids and girls. And now I'm like, like you said, like I'm married. I have a job. I'm, you know, trying to make it in the world. And it's relatable. And you look back. But Pete, let's jump over to you for your favorite track or tracks.
I'll give you 2 favorite tracks and then I'll keep 2 for sleepers because I see we're doing multiple. So that makes it easier. Right off the bat, Anthem Part 3. It just like, fuck, man. It's like it opens with a little kind of homage to Anthem Part 2 or whatever the right word is. I don't know if that was the right word, but like it's got a similar guitar riff. It's got a similar feel. And that's totally intentional. They're like, we're back. Here's Anthem Part 3, which kind of sounds like Anthem Part 2. But then it like transitions into a dumpweed sounding part almost, where it's like down, with the same kind of cymbal hit. And then they just rip into it. And the chorus of that, I fucking love that chorus. I think it's relatable. I think it's appropriate. Kind of. Yeah. It relates to Blink, but it also relates, especially us as creatives. It's like, this time I won't be complacent. The dreams I gave up and wasted. It's like, fuck, man, write a song about me, you asshole. But like, it's just so good. And like
that ending. The ending.
Oh my god. Yeah. Dude. And it's funny, when I first listened through, I wanted one more chorus. I was like, they should have come back in with the chorus one more time. But like, the more I listened, I'm like, no, that end was like, that was an appropriate end. They played the chorus twice. They didn't overdo it. And the melody of both the chorus and that outro part are just like, it sticks in your brain. It's anthemic. It is exactly what I'm looking for.
I think the outro of that song is what makes it, honestly, because like I said, the whole song is solid, but I think that switch where it goes heavy, I think I didn't spoil anything. Sorry. That's what makes it for me.
No, I agree. That's definitely, that's got that like vintage self-titled / boxcar sound, that kind of, and it's got like the Blink bells. I keep referring. It's like the bell that they use. That's like. They used it in a lot of self-titled and then like goes on the dance floor and shit.
It's also an Alkaline Trio thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So if you listen to their album Good Morning, they've done it on more albums, but on that album in specific, they use like the church bells a lot.
Gotcha.
It's very dark, But no,
that's cool.
All right, so Anthem Part 3. What else?
Anthem Part 3, and then I think Other Side is it's the on the standard edition. It's the second last track, and it's about Mark's bass tech dying, and I kind of caught that on the first listen through, and it was like, it'll never be the same stage, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, the intro is super blinky. It's like what Neighborhoods would have sounded. I think it's like what Neighborhoods could have sounded like if they had all really been in on it.
Yeah.
And it's got like a really iconic guitar riff, and it's I don't know. It's got some sort of light feel to it, but the lyrics and kind of like Mark singing all the way through, and I don't know. It's just to me, it gets me like emotional thinking about all the tragedy that Mark's gone through to get to this point, all the tragedy they've all gone through to get to this point, and then everything that we all deal with, and kind of like just the idea that like we're all coming to this end at some point, and it's like this sad but beautiful, short, compact song that's like, this is very much Blink, and it's one of the only tracks on the album that it's only them three writing it. So it's like, this is the truest form, but the lyrics have a little bit of plus 44-ness to them with like really deep, and then in the bridge there's a guitar part that reminds me of Go from where it's just like Tom's doing dueling palm muted shit that sounds so cool, and I can't stop listening to that song, and it hits me right here.
Yeah. It's funny, so actually Other Side, it's not a least favorite for me, but not even close, but that's actually like one of my like songs. Like, it's not bad. I'm not saying I don't like it, but that was one where I was kind of like, it almost reminded me kind of like California era Blink. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, and it could have just been the way it was played or recorded, but it almost reminded me of like those songs in California where they said like, oh, Mark was in the studio with John Feldman, and he, I was just strumming on a guitar and I wrote this song. So like, it definitely sounds like maybe Mark wrote the whole, like with the, like maybe Tom did the leads and stuff, but I mean, but it's by no means a bad song.
Nah.
Not at all. All right, let's go least favorites. Let's just circle back around. We'll start with you.
All right. I mean, I'm gonna hurt your feelings. Turn This Off.
Really?
And Fuckface were my.
I knew those were gonna be your
two least favorites. I love Blink, but like I could do with. I don't care about the joke songs. Like, and this one, to be fair, better than any that they've done in a long time. But like, I still am just like, if the album didn't have joke songs or the short songs, it's like I would, like, they came out with the deluxe version, and there's the song "See You," and like I might have rather seen that on there than those two songs. But yeah, those two are for me really the only two that I'm like, I could skip this.
Yeah,
everything else is pretty much like good for me.
Yeah,
I would say Blink Wave. I was kind of underwhelmed. Yeah, Blink Wave for sure, and then probably if I had to take them away, Fuckface and Turn This Off were probably the other ones.
Blink Wave was kind of a letdown for me, because when they were saying, "Oh, it's a synthwave Blink song," I was almost expecting like an interlude with like, but it's not even a synthwave. So like, if you listen to synthwave, it's real slow and grindy and dun 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 dun, dun, like with like the big electronic bass. That was more just like a new wave, like Cure 80s song. But yeah, so is it just the two short songs and then Blink Wave?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, Terrified. I kind of like Terrified, and I don't like it all at the same time. I think I liked it more when I didn't know that it was an unreleased like Boxcar song. And now it's like, you have no place here, you redheaded child. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, now that I know the origins, I'm like, oh, that's why it sounds different. Get it out of here. Like, that's kind of how, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm disappointed that this came up so late on the episode, because I made a point, like I wanted to, because like I said on our album ranking, we're like, oh, there's apparently this Boxcar song floating around, and so Terrified is the Boxcar song, and it was funny when Sean and I were sitting there, we were like, we got through, what's the third song, Fell in Love, and we're like, all right, and then we heard the da 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 da, and we were like, and then the big riff, and then as soon as Tom starts singing, Sean goes, yep, that's a Boxcar Racer song. And it's I really like that song too, but I have some comments about that portion of the album for my overall review then when we get there. But
I just want to comment on that. I actually feel like opposite once I found it was. I mean, I liked the song all the way through, but the fact that
you liked it more.
Like once I knew it, and I like when I first heard it, I was like, dang, this sounds like Boxcar. I dig. And then when I found out it was Boxcar, I was like, fuck yeah. But to me, like that song, I know the interlude sounds super angelsy, but like
it's tasteful. They did it tastefully.
To me, it is kind of like, all right, we're gonna. Maybe they'll still do other things, but it's like we're just gonna take what all of us like, and we're gonna do it for Blink, and like that's what Blink is. And that I've always been one who's like, I'm cool with Angel stuff being in Blink, like as long as the other elements are there. And with this album, it really felt like they brought in some Angel stuff. The Boxcar was there. There was some Plus 44. There was a lot of Travis, and like it just works because it's all together. So that to me, that was just like, fuck yeah, I love that. And like when I hear Mark being like, in the past I wouldn't have wanted this to happen, but it's happening. I'm like, my dads are getting along, you know? It's like it's all good.
Yeah. and the whole the whole thing, like with all their sounds meshing together too, you know, it's going back to the whole Born Again Tom thing. It's almost like he was in a serious relationship with the aliens before. And now they've brought him back, and they're like, "Okay, Tom, like his the brainwash has kind of worn off, and he's like Tom, like you can tell he's like trying to do like the Tom DeLonge way, you know, he's all right, so I have two least favorites. Number one is Edging, just because, like I said, that song was so underwhelming when it came out. I think Mark's verse is the better of the two. Tom's verse, and the reason why I really didn't care for it when it first came out is like the production. Let's talk about the production on Edging versus the rest of the album. You can tell they recorded it at a completely different time. You can tell it was mixed completely different. Like if for those who are maybe not musically inclined like we are, you listen to that whole album all the way through, Edging is completely different. The guitars are different, the drums are different, like sound wise. You can tell it's like the redheaded stepchild of the album, but they just threw it in because they're like, oh, it was our comeback song, so it needs to be on here, which to be fair, okay. I felt like Tom's verse is forced because you know his whole like I fucked your shirt, you know, he's just like trying to be edgy and like it's just it's corny. The guitars aren't really there, you know, but like, so that's my knock on it is like, it's just, I don't know. I think it should have just been a single. Just leave it, you know. It's catchy, but yeah, I never really cared for the song. Honestly, I've tried and tried and tried. Don't care for it. Matty can attest to it. How many times we've talked about it and I'm just like, dude, tried it again. Didn't like it.
It was always like talking about a girl, like she was hot, bro, and like no, she was not. Like, you know, it was just like these totally two opposing views. You know,
I think. Did you like it, Matty?
Right now, I did definitely. I think I kind of agree with Matt now that the album's out. That it just like, you know, the drums aren't really there. I think that's the big thing for me is the drums are so simple on that song, which is totally fine. I don't think simple drums are bad, but like, when you compare it to everything else they did, everything else Travis did, it does, I don't know. It feels maybe they wrote it in 5 minutes and, hey, this is it. And boom, we're coming back. World tour.
One of my knocks was that the drums sounded like, in regards to being simple, they sounded like Easy Drummer. Like if you would just go in and like drag one of the preset drum riffs that they have in there. But yeah, and then I guess upon listening to the full album, Fell in Love is my least favorite. Let me preface this. I love The Cure. They are one of my favorite bands of all time. I have preached their dark gospel for years, but I just think it's so corny. It's just too like, and I have nothing against pop music. It's too poppy. It's just so corny. The production, like you can hear all the pitch correction on Tom's voice, and like it is catchy. I'll give them that. And like, I feel like my least favorites on this album, like Pete has said, is like they're my least favorites, but they're by no means bad. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's more just a preference thing. Yeah.
Right. I definitely agree with you. Like when that first came out, the little sample thing to intro it, I was like, oh, what the fuck is this island vibe shit?
Yeah, you got to listen to Close to Me. It's a Cure song.
The more that, is that in it?
They sample, if you listen to it, they sampled from that song. Even the bass riff that Mark's
playing. I know the bass. I had heard the bass riff, but I thought that intro is just like a pop.
No,
it's The Cure did something like that?
I'm pretty sure they ripped the sample straight from The Cure. Oh, okay. It's called Close to Me. Yeah.
Well, then fuck me for not knowing that. But that is a song that when I first heard it, I was like, oh, I don't know. And the more I've listened, I'm just like, this is like I like it.
Yeah.
Like, corny. Yeah. Like, and crazy. Like I don't care for the
Yeah.
lyrics, but like
Sex all night,
in terms
fucking with my head.
in terms of like a Blink single, I'm like, it's got a really Tommy guitar part in the verses, and like I'm just cool with it. It reminded me of like a super
Everything's
popped
magic.
up version of Always
Oh, okay.
with like a little bit cleaner guitar, but I don't know. At first I didn't like it, but now I've come around and I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Kind of like the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
like Dance With Me, I wasn't sure at first, and now like I think that Anthem Part 3 into
That's
Dance
a
With Me
banger.
into Fell in Love is a really strong 3 songs to be like,
Yeah.
here you go.
Yeah.
This everybody can kind of enjoy this, and I can see why you wouldn't like Fell in Love because it's definitely like here's one that sounds like MGK could have sang on this one, and like definitely a poppy influence, but like
That's funny.
those 3 to me are like very strong start to the album.
All right. And then let's run into Sleeper real quick. My sleeper track is Bad News.
Hell yeah.
I feel like it's super, super catchy. It hits
Agreed.
hard. And it's just a classic Mark song. It reminds me of like Don't Leave Me online songs, like those like solo Mark songs from the 2000 to 2003 era. So Bad News, love that song, super good. What about you, Matty?
Yeah. I'm gonna say the same.
Hell yeah.
I said
Yeah,
Blink
Bad
Wave.
News.
Blink Wave and Childhood were my 2.
Childhood is really good. That one, it was a grower for me. Like the first time I heard it, I was like perplexed. Like a lot of the album, I was perplexed. And then like the other day, I was at work, and that chorus was stuck in my head. And then the synths at the end, like they just kept like looping in my head. So I had to come home and listen to it like 35 times. But
Right.
Brainwashed you.
yeah.
Me too.
Definitely super, super solid. So let's give a final rating, guys. You can either do out of 10 or a letter grade. Should I go first?
Yeah, you go.
I think
first.
for me it's a solid A- or like an 8.5 out of 10. I think so. My gripes are it's a little overproduced. On the mixes, I mean it's a modern day pop punk mix and master. It's super loud. The drums are
Right.
just like in your face. They're just like right there, which is it's just a little overproduced for my liking. There's a couple skips, right? Like I think a 10 out of 10 album for me would be that there are no skips. Like I said, there are a couple skips for me. But I think it's an absolute true love letter to diehard fans or just fans from any era of the band. You know, you may have come in at Dude Ranch and fallen off at Enema. You might have come in at Enema and fallen off at Neighborhoods, you know, but it's I think it's a love letter to the fans. And the other knock I had, like I said, the production. And then I think for me is the sequencing of the album's a little confusing at some points. Like to go from Fell in Love to Terrified, and then from Terrified to One More Time, it just makes zero. I'm like, what the fuck? Like One More Time, I almost expected to be towards the end of or the middle or the end of the album, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would just say it's a solid A-, 8.5 out of 10 for me. The sequencing and the production hold it back. There's a couple skips, but I like the album a lot. It'll definitely be in my main rotation for a while, for sure.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and agree, kind of. I mean, I'll give it a straight A, like a 9 out of 10. I will give it the production knock, but it is, like you said, kind of, it's it sounds like a modern pop punk record in terms that it is loud. The drums are kind of like I miss the vintage Travis Barker sounding drums from like
The
self-titled.
It was the Jerry Finn.
Yeah, so I do miss that, and it's and that was like kind of my one knock even for Anthem Part 3 is like the drums are so overpowering it kind of takes away from the rest of the elements. Like the guitars at times fall back, and like it's hard to pick out the vocals at times because the drum and like especially the kick drum is just like really in your fucking face. But yeah, aside from that, I don't even have a problem with the sequencing. Like
it just
works
feels a
for
little
me.
random.
It is kind of weird how, like I think the first 3 are so strong, and then you get Terrified, which is getting into that heavier sound. To me, One More Time did fit there. It's just kind of like really strong start, then really heavy, and then lighten it up, and then I don't know. I didn't have any problem with that, but there were you know a couple. Like if I had to skip a couple, I could, and like I would put it probably in my top 4 or 5 Blink albums.
Yeah, it made it into my top 5 for sure. We'll save that for the winter though. But yeah, and then like just to run off of what Pete said real quick, with the drums, that's mainly where I say it's overproduced. Like I said, you can hear some crazy pitch correction at some points, but I mean, like I use pitch correction, Matty uses pitch Pete, we all use it
all the time.
So we can't knock it too hard, but it's like the drums are my issue with a lot of modern music, because like you said, you go back to those late 90s, early 2000s bands, the drums sound real. Like they sound like drums, whereas now you listen to a modern pop punk mix and it almost just sounds like thumping. Like it's in my head, like, you know, like the snare drum doesn't sound like that, like that tinny or brass
There's
or
no
like
crack
wood sound.
to it.
It's just kind of like a snap or like a punch, you know. So yeah. All right, Matty, let's jump over to you. What's your final rating and your thoughts?
I'm gonna give it a solid A. Like, so not an A plus, not an A minus, just a solid, like, probably 9 out of 10. You know, like type rating. And I would say, like, if we take away neighborhoods and we take away like the stuff with Matt or whatever, I think that this was probably the best thing that they could have done, like, together. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was just really solid. Every album, like, even like me and you, the stuff that we've written, like, every time we write something, I'm like, man, this is really good. But I now have skips, you know, like, there's certain songs that I don't listen to as much as like other songs of like Sunday Black stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you're always going to have stuff that's not as good as some of the other stuff. But like, I think when it came down to instrumentation, they had it, you know, they were definitely together as a group for the most part. And then just like the song structures and the writing style, I think was a really good cross between Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and Self-Titled. Like, there was just a really good mesh, because I think a lot of people kind of forget about Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, like how good that album is. That album's really, really good. A lot of people remember the one before it and then the one after, but I don't know, like, I think the whole thing was just really, really good. And there were, in my opinion, if there are, out of 17 songs, there's 9 songs that I really, really like. That's pretty freaking good. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I can sit through the other ones, you know, but if I just don't want to listen to, you know, if I only want to listen to track 1 and then track 4 and then track 6, that's not a good album. Those are just good songs on a mediocre album. But I felt like this one, it was just a good, strong, it was strong. That's the best way to say it. It was a strong effort. And I think they accomplished what the whole mission statement of the album, quote unquote, was the One More Time video. We're going to do this one more. We're going to at least do it one more time, you know, and do it the way we should do it. And I think that they accomplished that. They did what they should have been doing this, you know, for the past 15 years or whatever. Or when did Neighborhoods come out? Was that 11?
Yeah, that was more than 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember that. I can't even fathom that. But yeah, I think they knocked it out of the park, and I think that Tom was not. I'm Tom DeLonge, you know, like that. I felt like that was Neighborhoods. It was like, I am so Tom DeLonge right now, you know. And
I will never agree to that. I'm here to stand up for my beliefs. I like Neighborhoods.
Neighborhoods is great, but when you really look at like what Blink is, I think that Neighborhoods was so experimental, it alienated a lot of people. You know what I mean? And it's still a good record. I still like Neighborhoods. But like, when you really want to look at like the overall sound that Blink really made their fortune on, I think this album is so much closer to that mark than Neighborhoods was. Yeah. For sure.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
On my last appearance, I didn't stand up for myself, so I just told myself coming into this episode I was not gonna.
I heard that on the Green Day podcast, the Homecoming podcast.
That really sat with me.
He's still talking about it. But yeah, no, definitely a really solid album for anyone who's made it this far. Definitely go check it out. I feel like it's an album where there's something for everyone, you know. But yeah, thanks all for coming on, guys. This was awesome. Definitely a solid episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pete and I have talked about doing an Eagles bye week episode in the next like week or two, so we're gonna see if we bang that one out with John. And then coming later in the month, John is actually going to be on with me again. We're going to have a 4-year anniversary episode for the podcast, and we're just going to talk about life and growth and music and all that fun stuff. So tune back in, give us a follow here on Spotify, subscribe to us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll see y'all on the next one.